Let me start by saying, this is an amazing community. I've known this community for 3 or 4 years now, and every single year it was like, you gotta go to Superweek. That's where the community lives. And I got myself out here to Budapest, and from this get-go, wow, what an experience it was.
If we go full agentic, we need to think about new ways of accountability.
We have to be always mindful. You have to make sure, especially with AI going on, you have to put quality and healthy data in.
A lot of it is reapplication of machine learning at a scale that we haven't seen before. Relatively well-known technology, well understood technology, but being used in a different way and used with a degree of power that we haven't seen previously.
Those can then lead to actions, and those actions can impact the outside world. And these autonomous agents, that is when it starts to get really scary.
Are we going to make, critical life and death decisions based on the wrong data? We're not at a point yet where we can, definitively say that we trust them. But I do think that one of our roles, one of our jobs in this evolving ecosystem is being, the governance layer, being the architect of the data going in so that the data coming out is more trustworthy.
That's the next big step I see, is the regulation of AI. If we can learn as a society and as an industry from things like the cookie banners, now we need to be better at educating the people who make the legislation. What they're good at is governing. What we are good at is expertise in the technology.
The scary future is we don't understand the interconnectedness, and the digital infrastructure is what would go down that then cascades into the physical movement of information or people. Is that bleaker or still not?
We're getting there.
Okay, we're getting there.
There's a scenario where we can end there. Like, it can happen, we never know. But I think that this is our role to control AI. Like, it's not a brain, it's not a human, so we are here to make decisions.
The war industry is using, of course, AI, and the dangerous part is if they are allowed to making decisions on their own. People do also make incorrect decisions, but how do you punish an AI?
We see that in action nowadays, where you see the machines are like drones that are fully autonomous, and the danger of that is the machine is the one taking a decision to kill a human, and there is no accountability.
For defense, it can be really helpful because it can help you detect threats, but when it goes to kind of attack, then it's the real danger, because,
Because of the quality of the decisions.
Yeah.
So as a pipeline integrator, you can integrate as well agents, but there is always to put a human in the loop. So I really hope that, yes, maybe agentic AI is really nice, but I really hope that before delivering those results, there will be always a person that take care to check.
So maybe we need a similar way to think about AI. It's just agents that we are responsible about.
And it should be always someone assigned to a certain task or decision.
Exactly, yeah.
AI is still very much of a black box, right? And what do we get from it? Like, how can we understand what's happening? And we are entering into, or we are already in, a place where, that we are having to optimize for two different types of things, right? Humans and bots, right? And how do we understand the difference in performance?
Again, I don't really know how that will unfold. I'm sure there's a lot of efficiencies. I do worry about what you're signaling to others when you're automating certain tasks. You've automated it away, and you in a way can signal you don't really care so much about them as human beings.
And that's a sign.
Correct. And you make a mistake, there's an error. That might be alienating.
What separates a system from a human is judgment. And we've been, as humanity, making systems for as long as we've been around that interfere with judgment.
People will normalize the usage of AI. They need to have personalized user experience, personalized user journey, talking about activation, personalization, experimentation, etc. It's in the heart of our industry.
But then human condition inevitably gets greedy. And it's greed that drives commercial exploitation, human exploitation, political exploitation. So I think the regulation has to bear, or whatever regulation is going to come, and it will, has to bear in mind, what are we aiming to achieve here?
Our only moat or protection or defense against AI is going to be human connection. That is how we defend ourselves against the rising tide. People will use it in different ways. Things will vary over the next, well, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it looks like, but we will have to adapt much quicker. And we will have to make human connections and be the person that someone wants to call.
What happens is that there's so many top-down mandates in companies to introduce AI in companies, so everybody must use it, must do something, but nobody takes a step back and think. Nobody asks questions anymore, which is so scary to me.
That is the door to massive resource misallocation, I believe. 2, you're probably also not, there's opportunity cost in that you haven't really learned, you haven't really thought about the best way of using this technology, and so you won't in the future get anything out of you've learned, and even in the AI space. So you're just kind of going to be a double loser potentially in that context.
But it's not just clicks, it's not just page views, it's not just transactions. It's deeply personal data. It's what race, what orientation, exactly where do you live, and what photos are you posting. The photos are analysed, the photos are used for training, but all of this data then is available to the highest bidder. Now that's the Wild West. That's another step along again.
If any of the AI companies decide to change their model and even unintentionally lead to undesirable results, it's very weird the fact that A, that they can do that, and B, it will be very, very hard for them to be held accountable. Because they almost have plausible deniability. We didn't know the model was going to do this. We can't see in the model. It's a black box. All we know is we put stuff in and good stuff comes out. And if we put different stuff in, better stuff comes out. And that's all we keep doing. And
It's sorry about that.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, we'll fix it in an update.
Maybe you just don't care what happens in the middle, but if that agentic AI caused some harm of whatsoever, the human who made the initial order is the one responsible. Maybe that could be one way, but also again, like the idea of autonomy is against accountability. How would I know what that person does?
This and everything is a blur because I've had so much fun. Can't remember anything. I interviewed Russell McCarthy on how to unfuck your data. That was a very interesting one.
You can always set up auditing in every system. The problem being is that you can manipulate auditing in every system. And the irony in this is that if you have a system that involves AI that you are going to put an audit in place, the analysis of that audit will probably be analysed by AI. And therefore you end up with, well, actually, do we need to audit the auditors? And you end this endless loop of, at what point do we trust things?
The real answer to this, I think, personally, would be for the models making decisions like this to be open source so that they can be interrogated by everybody, but it's not going to happen. I think it's a pipe dream for people to think that that will happen.
The AI bubble bursted a bit towards the end of last year. I think What we will see this year is a decline in the LLM part and hopefully more investment towards other applications of AI. Lion Jones, and he said that he is upset that he invented this stuff because all the money, all the investments are going to one singular technology, and it reduces all the research and work that you do in medicine, that you do in healthcare and agriculture, because everybody right now in the market is investing in large language models. So what happens with the rest of the stuff? So I think for the future, I hope that because the bubble has bursted for large language model and commercial use of AI, we will see more investment into medicine and to things that actually can change our lives versus us being so fucking lazy not to write an email.
Well, this is something regulation has to bear in mind. Exactly what vertical we're talking about here, exactly what utility we're talking about here. And I think the power, the capability for medical science is fantastic. I think that's just amazing, the possibilities that we have there.
There's some opportunity to say, well, we're going to build automated adversarial redundancies to say we're not going to replace a human with a system. Maybe we're going to replace a human with a system that's checked by 3 other systems before anything comes out. And then we're going to be really, really careful before we remove that one human from the process.
One day AI may train us to write the right question in the right way, but for now I think we're at that stage where we need to sort of in a way train AI.
The problem is if the human loses the skills, and I kind of got a little dinged on this because in the near term, we'll have plenty of people who've looked at millions of x-rays, and so if they're checking the work of a machine, they have that institutional knowledge. But 20 years from now, we won't have the people who've looked at 1 million x-rays, so how good is the human at checking it?
I definitely see a current and future of using AI for better good, and not just AI slop that you watch, dancing cat and dancing dog, which I do watch, but there's a greater good AI can do, and that's down to us. That's down to human, how we use it.
As much as I think a lot of people go into solving challenges with good intent, a bunch of people don't, and the good people don't always win. This isn't a movie.
It's hard to say for me sometimes because I work in this industry, and the industry wants you to believe that if you don't keep up with the latest trends in artificial intelligence, you're gonna be left behind. And it's like, it reminds me of the communist propaganda sometimes.
Everybody, I think, feels like they are behind everyone else, which we've experienced that before too. Every company thinks that their data is dirtier and their analytics is not as good as the rest of the industry, and everybody can't be below average. But right now, the reality is I think everyone's feeling that way. We've got the people who are wired to be, thought leaders are going to find every little shred of a positive, cool thing they've done, and they're going to expand. They're going to imply that it's bigger and deeper and more valuable than it is, which then kind of injects kind of fear into the community. But I think everyone's trying to figure it out.
And I think that we're going to have a whole industry that is created, going back to the premise of what you're talking about, that is not the auditing, but the trust building behind things. The same way that currently in a lot of organizations, the PR team or some of the outputs from a PR team are focused on building trust or authority in an industry. You are going to have a proportion of the PR team or a new team called the trust team that are trying to convince society, customer bases at large, that you can trust this by showing more than they've ever had to show in the past to say what's actually going on behind the scenes.
So we need to have that capacity to monitor all the signals in the market. When I say signals in the market, it can be geopolitical signals, it can be product related, it's everyday life.
The industry is maturing. You'll see in 10 years' time, we're all going to talk about how to sell your company to others. That's it. We are a more mature industry with pros and cons in everything. I'm glad that we have second, maybe even third generations of juniors or mediors, which are seniors right now. So we have industry which is maturing.
Our jobs are going to be providing the context, providing the schemas, providing as much information, architecting the world of information that the AI has access to, so that what it comes back with is as strategic, as actionable as possible.
Jobs will change for sure. But there was a phrase, I don't remember who said that, but we are moving from an operational, from your point of view, to more a strategical one. So we are moving towards to be the architect of the infrastructure.
So the decision has already been removed from human hands. It's just a different system. So I'm less concerned about what system are we using. I'm more concerned about, is the system a good system? Do we need to change the system? How do we restore key elements of humanity? And what are we working towards? Is our goal maximum profit, or is our goal maximum human flourishing?
In Europe, I feel that we are a bit still in control. They are trying to take care of it. But we are also, as you see, going fast, and we try to speed up because US are so far from us. So like the evolution of technologies in US, China really is far ahead of us, that to be at the same level, we rushed, and we will lose what is the important part of for our big European Union, so privacy and take care of the people that live there.
But at the same time, there has to be a balance to not stifle innovation. The oppression, the suppression of innovation, that's a risk. We don't want to move backwards. We are moving forwards, but how and for whom? And that's the big question. Who are the beneficiaries here? Who is accountable, but who's actually making the money? Who's responsible? So as enablers, essentially, of this data collection, we in this industry have to take responsibility and recognize that we're accountable. It's our neck's on the line here.
Yes, maybe my worries is that people won't give that a good importance, and they will just deploy tools that will put everyone at risk. For that, I'm scared.
It's seeping in through every aspect of our existence. Do we really need refrigerators with artificial intelligence? Like, how lazy are we becoming,
Now with Google Maps, I don't remember the road anymore. I would barely know how to go from home to the supermarket, but I went to my office endless times. If I do not use the map, I will not be able to go to the office. I don't know how to do it. I just outsourced this, cognitive thinking to the machine. I will put Google Maps on the car. I just follow whatever it says, and I'm not noticing anything around me, And this has been happening for years.
It's scary, and I think the way these models are built by these companies, it's on purpose, because they use something called reinforcement learning, which basically it feeds so much lore from the internet and discourse from people to make it sound more and more and more human and have responses that are more human. And then you build this unhealthy, I will say, it's not a normal relationship to have with the interface.
The way humans interact with technology, there's this implicit assumption that there's a correctness to it. I think that's something that'll be a challenge to navigate that as we're using new software, and to be aware enough and to have the ability to diagnose solutions. So in the past, very important to diagnose problems Now it's going to be also very important to be able to diagnose the results and be able to already know not the exact answer, but the shape of the answer, if you know what I mean.
If there was one takeaway for me, it would be, that this is an invaluable thing that we can do to stay connected and to, continue feeling like we are progressing as humans in a time where it's easy to feel disconnected. I didn't get to mention Yehoshua, who really made the vibe super fun, super silly. The funny thing about Yehoshua, I'm sure if you know me, Joshua Silverbauer, you'll know that I am a performer and stuff, and I was in the US for doing that. And Yehoshua, which is Joshua in Hebrew, is also a performer all the way on the other side of the world. And I just learned this 2-3 years ago, that we were these two Joshua Yehoshuas in the world making silly things, and now we've come together and we're doing silly things together. So another fun connection point of, bringing joy and bringing silliness and bringing fun to, education, which is, I always think, very valuable as well.